Okay, we are going to continue in our journey of the American Covenant. We have been reading chapter 2, and this first part is titled The Predominant View of Our Ancestors. And some of these words I'm probably going to mess up on, just letting you know. The founders' passion for liberty was not primarily an inheritance from Rousseau, nor was it a reaction to the tyranny of kings who governed from afar. They were inspired chiefly by the world view of the reformation of law, history, education, and all other public and private affairs. When Calvin, Luther, and Knox proclaimed the sovereignty of God, even over the king, entire nations rose within a decade to challenge the political doctrines of tyrants who had oppressed the people of Europe for a millennium. This was the inheritance that the first settlers brought with them to the New World. Rank, the famous German historian, said, "John Calvin is the virtual founder of America." Bancroft, America's leading 19th century historian, called Calvin simply the father of America. The world's foremost Reformation scholar, and here I go messing it up, D'Aubigné said, Calvin was the founder of the greatest republic. The Pilgrims who left their country in the reign of James I and landing on the barren soil of New England founded populous and mighty colonies, were his sons, his direct and legitimate sons, and the American nation which we had seen growing so rapidly boasts as its father the humble reformer born on the shore of Lake Leman. Calvin shaped a republic because he unleashed a biblical theology that laid open the profound sinfulness of all men and recognized that only by God's sovereign grace could men be redeemed. His teaching also emphasized that all men, including the king, were subject to the laws of God. But all of Calvin's systematic theology, whether the priesthood of all believers or the covenantal character of God's government, rested on the bedrock of God's sovereignty. This emphasis on God's sovereignty endured in the generations of the founders. Dr. Lorraine Boettner records that about 2/3 of colonial population had been trained in the school of Calvin. Similarly, Bancroft notes that in 1776, the American Republic was 98% Protestant and 66% Calvinist. The providential view of God's sovereignty in and through history passed directly from the reformers to the founders. Defining the providential view. Noah Webster, the great educator and lexicographer who compiled and published the first American dictionary in 1828, defined providence as the care and superintendence which God exercises over his creatures. Some persons admit a general providence, but deny a particular providence, not considering that a general providence consists of particulars. A belief in divine providence is a source of great consolation to good men. By divine providence is understood God himself. In this definition, Webster, a devout Christian, expresses succinctly the providential view of history, in writing that providence is a source of great consolation to good men. He alludes to the peace that comes from knowing that a just God presides over nations and that his plan cannot be thwarted. The opposite is also true. If you are fighting the God of history and you learn of his providence, it can be very unsettling. One of the best definitions of a providential view of history is given by Reverend S.W. Fullerjum, writing in 1876. He said, "It has been said that history is the biography of communities. In another and profounder sense, it is the autobiography of him who worketh all things after the counsel of his will," Ephesians 1:11, and who is graciously timing all events after the counsel of his Christ in the kingdom of God on earth. In fact, this view of history is an important part of Judeo-Christian tradition. D.W. Billington, in his book Patterns in History, says concerning the historical view of the apostle, the earliest Christians retained the attitudes to history found in the Old Testament. They continued to believe in divine intervention, to conceive of the historical process as a straight line, and to see the panorama of world events as moving towards the goal. And we're going to stop there and let us dwell on these facts as we continue to learn about the true history of our nation. God bless.